Welcome back, everybody, to another post-race reaction video. I'm Kellen Brauer, talking today about the 2024 High Point National just went down over the weekend, and we're going to play a little bit of MX Simulator while we discuss some of the festivities. And if you haven't been with me before, this is basically where I just kind of talk about my thoughts from the weekend and what I thought happened at High Point and what we're going to be seeing moving forward from here. I've covered this sport for over a decade as a journalist, so kind of get some ins and outs scoops sometimes that maybe you guys don't always get to hear. And if you know me, then you know me, and if you don't, then hope you enjoy listening along. So yeah, High Point, round 4 of the championship gone and dusted, and another sweep for Jett Lawrence in the 450 class. Ty Masterpool gets his first career win in the 250 class. We'll kind of go over that, but I wanted to start 450s today because Jett Lawrence had that massive crash at Hangtown a few weeks ago, and was pretty banged up. We believe now that the biggest problem that he's dealing with is his shoulder. He initially took like a foot peg to the hip in the crash, and that was believed to be kind of the biggest problem because he needed stitches, or was maybe going to need stitches. I think he ended up getting like little soft bandages or whatever to get it healed up all the way. But anyway, he is now fine, I guess, with the hip because it doesn't sound like it's bothering him at all, and instead it's the shoulder, and you can tell it's laboring him a little bit. So for him to still be dealing with this injury, and we don't know how long it's going to persist for, maybe this upcoming break helps, but for him to still be dealing with it and then have a weekend where he goes 1-1 again kind of spells, I feel like, problem for the rest of the field. Now, in the second moto, Chase Sexton was way better. Finally, we got to see a Sexton-Jett battle that we don't really get to see all that often. But even with that, it didn't really feel like, oh yeah, Chase is making massive steps towards anything. This is just one of those like shining motos that he's having again, because now Hangtown is starting to look a little bit like an outlier, at least the second moto. Like if you even think back to the first moto at Hangtown for Sexton, it wasn't as if, oh, he plowed through those guys and won it convincingly. Like he did go through Hunter Lawrence and Jason Anderson, and I think Plessinger was ahead of him in the first moto, that is. So he went through some fast guys, but it wasn't with the authority that he did it in the second moto, where he clearly looked like he was riding pissed off, and made it look really, really kind of easy to win that moto. But I just don't feel like we're at the point where we can trust Sexton's consistency from a week-to-week basis. He keeps fumbling with bike setup and stuff like that. And if that's the case, and Jett still is able to go 1-1 when Chase takes the lead and then crashes away the lead, and then we're just back to kind of square one again where Jett gets the overall, I think we're in danger for the rest of the season, which is kind of crazy to think about because Jett's not even in the championship lead. It's still Hunter leading the championship by 6 points, I believe, over Sexton, and now it's only 8 points over Jett. But like Jett pulled the lead in half in one weekend, and he's still injured and dealing with this shoulder problem. So to me, I feel like the one, pressure cooker point about it now is if the shoulder problem continues to persist and we're going to get to a point where, maybe if he's going to need surgery or something like that, or if he crashes again and makes the injury to it worse, that's where you could start saying, okay, maybe someone else is going to get up there and change this around. Because right now, man, like he's laboring 70, 80%, whatever you want to call it, and still winning these races. So that's, to me, kind of crazy that they haven't taken more advantage of it, that Chase hasn't had better weekends on the trot here. Not a good weekend at Thunder Valley, and he admitted as much. He literally called it a shocker that he didn't win that, or do better at that race, not win, but didn't even get on the podium in either moto. And then, so Hunter Lawrence is leading the championship, but again, I feel like both motos at High Point, maybe the first moto a little bit different, but the second moto, Hunter just he's very good. He's very close to winning every moto, but he just doesn't have like the it factor. He won the first moto at Thunder Valley and probably could have won the first moto this weekend at High Point, but he hasn't really delivered like I'm going to pass my brother straight up, I'm going to pass Chase Sexton straight up kind of situation just yet. So I'm kind of keen to see if we move into more of these East Coast rounds, especially Southwick. Like Southwick's the next round. Hunter's always been really good at Southwick. If we get to Southwick and he wins that, then I can say, okay, now the script is flipped again, and now we're at a point where Hunter's got a bigger championship advantage. Jett's got to do some work again. But right now, I just don't see how, even if you're a fan of the sport on like a fringe level and you're cheering on Chase and cheering on Hunter or any other rider, that you're not thinking man, Jett has won more motos than anybody this year. He's only lost 3 of the 8 motos, technically now. And he just is back to winning again, even though he's hurt. Like he's turned this around into a very special championship for him again, because he went from being hurt to being the guy in 2 weeks, and he's not 100%. So I don't know. Maybe I'm overreacting to it, but I feel like if you really paid attention and you really saw the way that he rode, the way that he managed the race, the way that even when Chase went down, he decided to like back it down again. I feel like he's got it back under control a little bit, if that makes sense. Whereas I feel like after Hangtown, he was even kind of like, I don't know what's about to happen. I've never been put in this situation before where I have to do the chasing outdoors, and I'm hurt doing the chasing, and all he's done is gone 2-1-1-1 since going 24-6 at Hangtown. So I don't know. That's my thoughts and opinions on it. I think it's pretty clear to say that it's those 3 guys. Like Anderson started up with those guys and got shuffled back. Plessinger was, in the mix. Again, those 3 guys went 1, 2, 3. I think those are the guys that are going to be battling for this championship no matter what. And I think that it really boils down to Hunter and Chase doing everything they can when the opportunities are available to limit the damage that Jett is going to supply, basically. Like if he's going to go out and win these motos on repeat, they need to take advantage of the bad days, and when Jett gets a 5th or something like that, they have to go 1-2 or be the one that wins the moto or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, my thoughts and opinions on that. I think the Chase situation in the second moto, a lot of people are just going to be like, oh, Chase crashing the lead away again, what else is new or something like that. I think, personally speaking, I'm now starting to see a Chase that is pushing the bike beyond its boundaries. Not that, the KTM can't get to what he's doing on it, but I think that he's not 100% comfortable with it still. I don't think he'll ever be 100% comfortable, to be honest. He's been finicky with setup, but not 100% comfortable with it, and because of that, he is overriding in a lot of areas, and that's what's causing crashes. And that's, I think, sometimes what caused his Honda crashes too. Like, yes, they were very wonky and weird crashes oftentimes, but I do think that he didn't necessarily have, the comfort all the time on the Honda that he really was looking for, and that sometimes pushed him onto the ground more often than not. And I think that's the same case with this. Like, he got the lead, he got into a position where he was maybe starting to relax a little bit, and just one little small bobble is all it takes. And I try not to be hypercritical on Chase with crashes, because everybody else is. Like, you read comment boards and stuff like that, and everybody else is like, oh, Chase, another crash, and it's not the Honda, yada yada yada. So I don't necessarily feel that it's all to do with Chase, and I think it has to do with the way that he will push a bike sometimes. But I guess you could blame that on Chase too. But I don't know. I'm not that fussed about the crash in the second moto. He got up, rode his heart out, closed up on Jett again, and made a kind of interesting little race out of it, and good on him. It made it more interesting for us fans, and I like that. So kudos to him. But yeah, like I said, I think the rest of the 450 class, I kind of look at it now as like good battle for 4th. Jason Anderson and Aaron Plessinger and Justin Barsh has been in the mix a little bit, and guys like those, like when they are in a heavy fight for 4th or 5th or whatever, like that's a good battle on the track. They're not going to win motos. I kind of genuinely feel like we're at that point now, especially like when you look at the way that the first moto unfolded and Chase wasn't comfortable, slipped back, and suddenly they're all 25 seconds behind Hunter and Jett. I think we're just starting to see that kind of established pace every single week, where either Hunter, Jett, or Chase are that good for the duration of a moto, and no one else can keep up with that pace other than them. Whether it's Hunter's that good and Jett runs the pace for that long, or Chase is that good and Hunter runs the pace for that long, or whatever. I think they just kind of are going to do that for the rest of the season. But I'm excited to see what happens at Southwick, because that'll be maybe the biggest curveball for all of them. We've had, really speaking now, 4 hard-packed rounds. I hate to call High Point that, because when you go East Coast, obviously the dirt's going to get loamier than what we had in California and obviously in Colorado. But I think that Southwick is really where people will be like, okay, how's my setup on all different types of surfaces? Is it going to feel comfortable here? Am I going to be happy with it? Am I going to make drastic changes? Is it going to change the results much either? And I think that that'll be kind of the catalyst on what we're going to expect for this championship moving forward. But if I had to guess, I would say at Southwick, Jett goes 1-1 again, and probably because of Hunter and Chase swapping positions or one of them having a bad day or something like that, I could definitely see Jett leaving Southwick with the red plate again, and maybe for the last time this season. So that's my thoughts on that. Let's talk about Ty Masterpool in the 250 class and how that shook down. First of all, Ty Masterpool, people were beating down the door to get Ty Masterpool on a factory bike. Last year, he was, he was not an anomaly. That's not the right word, but he was just an outstanding surprise on a 450 last year. Figured out some stuff with HBI Racing and got himself into a good spot with a privateer effort 450 and was at Thunder Valley battling for a podium and oftentimes battling inside of the top 5 throughout the year on that bike. And there's a reason he's national number 29, even though he's never really been that comfortable on Supercross. But now gets a last-minute fill-in deal with Pro Circuit after Cameron McAdoo, Seth Hammaker got hurt. If you don't know the story about that, by the way, I found out that it sounds like Hammaker and McAdoo literally got hurt about an hour apart from each other on the Tuesday before Paula. I think it was Hammaker that went down first. I think both of them were shoulder injuries or shoulder related, if I remember correctly. And then McAdoo crashed an hour later, and you just are like, what in the PC is going on here? But hey, what in the PC is going on here now is a different story, because Ty Masterpool has filled in on this bike. I think he's progressively gotten better. In speaking to him pretty much every week except this past weekend, he would kind of say yeah, we found this, we found that, I'm working on this, the bike is great, I don't want to blame anything on the bike, but I just am getting more comfortable on it, all of those things. And he was amazing at High Point. There's no way around it. He was good in qualifying. I think he was third fastest in qualifying, which he qualified fastest at Thunder Valley, right? And then now third fastest here this weekend, so he's proving to be fast kind of everywhere. But then High Point, I think what Masterpool needed was, at Thunder Valley, he had no good starts. I think he was caught up in kind of the first turn-ish pileup in the first moto, then came from a little bit further back in the second moto, so he just never got to start up front. But I think having the experience that he had at Hangtown, where he started in second behind Deegan in the second moto, got to follow him and just run that pace for a long time, probably set him up better for having a good feeling this past weekend at High Point of, knowing what that pace is going to be like for the duration of the moto, what he needs to do. And as he has found more comfort on that bike, he's also seemed to have found more comfort in himself with fitness and all that stuff, getting back on a 250. It's honestly funny, when I talk to guys about jumping back to the 250, and Cody Shaw comes to mind with this, because yeah, he raced a 250 indoors, but he hasn't raced a 250 outdoors since 2017. This is his first year doing it since then. So, and he told me this is one of the hardest things he's ever done. Racing a 250 outdoors is intense, battles all the time. You have to ride the bike so wide open, so fast. If you watch Jett Lawrence ride on a 450, you can see he's just hopping through bumps and standing a lot of places and coasting. And James Stewart this weekend on the broadcast even went silent so you could hear how low of a gear Jett Lawrence was in when he was going through a section. You just ride a 450 so much looser, and that's not necessarily that it's easier because you're still lugging around a bigger bike, but you just ride it in a manner of which you can maybe save a little bit more energy at some locations, whereas a 250 you just have to ride it so hard, and to go fast you have to be wide open all the time against these guys, especially someone like Deegan. So I think for Masterpool to get to a level where he's already fitness-wise able to push that bike for 2 30-minute motos is, I think, a true testament to the work that he's put in himself to be ready for this opportunity. Not to say that he wasn't ready to race a 450 outdoors or whatever, but just have everything pivot so quickly, and in only 3 weeks' time, learn this bike, learn the class again, learn the fitness that it takes, run up front the entire first moto, not be gassed for the second moto, lead, crash, pick it up, get back to the lead again, get around Hymas, and then hold off a hard-charging Deegan. He did so many things correctly, I feel this weekend, that you just gotta give him a lot of credit for. And I've just been so impressed with his demeanor through it all and taking it all in stride and knowing how big of an opportunity this could be for his career, because realistically speaking, so he goes 2-1 this weekend. He gets his first career overall. He's the first rider not named Hayden Deegan to get a 250 overall this year too. Is it going to land him a PC deal next year? I don't think that that's a guarantee, because I think that there's still a lot of people weary about what he brings to the table in Supercross, and also this raises his stock, obviously. Like, he personally will think I'm worth more going to teams next year. But I think that you start to imagine a world where if this is the pace that he can run outdoors and he can do it on a consistent basis, like let's say he even wins a couple more motos this year or even another overall, and you're a factory 250 team, you start to think, okay, like, yeah, maybe he's not going to win us a Supercross title, but if we can get him to podium indoors and be a number 2 guy, like if he signs with PC, for example, and goes on Levi Kitchen's coast next year, and Kitchen's the A Supercross guy, and Ty is the B guy, and he's just getting solid results and stuff like that, you just are like, okay, great, make it healthy, get through the season, top 5s are good, podiums are great, yada, yada, yada. Bring this outdoors, because he has all of that talent in his fingertips if only you could harness it. And I think a lot of the problems that have happened in the recent years with his, success and getting, booted off of Star Racing, for example, and stuff like that, is that he just didn't have it all kind of put together yet. And he talked about that even on the podium of like having a group of people that believed in what he was doing around him and having a system put in place where he felt like he could accomplish what he needed to was a huge turn of events for him, and look at what it's done. So this is just awesome. It's probably the best story that we're going to have this year. It's one of the best stories we're going to have in years, to have a fill-in guy so last minute, get on this bike, win a national, win a moto. It's awesome. And it's the 300th win, too, for Pro Circuit Kawasaki, which was a damn long time coming. They thought for many times it would be Kitchen to get it done in Supercross or Kitchen to get it done outdoors. I'm sure they've had that plate that they put on his bike for a long time, just waiting to be able to show that thing off. But, just massive credit to Ty Masterpool. He rode so well. And so I don't want to take anything away from him. But I do also want to say this championship is Hayden Deegan's, and, like, I don't even know that I have really any qualms about saying that 100% at this point. He's got a 32-point championship lead. He won the first 3 races of the year, the overalls, and he came from so far back in both motos. Someone showed like a clip in the first moto. He was outside of the top 20 going down the rollers, and I think he crossed the line in 14th at the end of the first lap, which bravo for making as many passes as he did on the first lap. He's been very impressive to me about his kind of methodical approach to everything. It does look like the entire time he's just all send or nothing, but I do think that if you stand trackside and watch him work through his section or work through making a pass, that you can kind of see why he's doing stuff and where he's thinking about it. He might even just say like, I'm just sending it or whatever, but I do think he has a more methodical approach to it than more people really give him credit for. And then, I just feel coming back both motos from as far as he did, he wins the first moto, a ridiculous ride, honestly, because halfway through the moto, he was 15 seconds down. He was in like 5th place. And if you're Deegan and you're the championship leader, you've already passed Vial. He got to a point where he passed Hymas, I think, with 5-6 laps to go. Like, you're gaining on the championship in every regard at that point. Like, all you have to do is get around Shimoda, who at the moment is not really a championship contender, and Masterpool, who is 50-some-odd points behind you. So, do you need it? No. But he wanted it. Like, he went and took that first moto because he felt like he could win and gain those points, and he did. It was such an impressive ride, in my opinion. But I think almost more so the second moto was even crazier. The ability to get a good start, crash, put your head down, ride the way that he did without mistakes. Because one thing that I will say about Deegan, and I'm not trying to knock him by saying this, but I do think that his style and the way that he rides at 250 elicits the opportunity for a big one at some point, and not like, I think Hangtown was a freak deal with that helicopter thing that he did, but I think, he could have a big one where he's just pushing the envelope, come flying down a hill, it swaps one direction, and, like Tomac in 2015 in Colorado, you're down before you even have a chance to think about it. I think that definitely is something that you have to think about with his style on a motorcycle. That being said, I think he's done a remarkable job of riding that ragged edge and doing it lap after lap without fail. No mistakes, no big swaps, no off-track moments. I mean, he's had maybe a couple this year, I guess, but just in general, to be able to push that hard for that long the intensity, the fitness it takes to do that is incredible. There's no other way to say it than he is a badass dude on a motorcycle. And I've said this on Twitter. I think I've said this in podcasts. Like, that to me is the more impressive part about Hayden Deegan. You can say what you want about the talent, all that stuff like that. He was always going to be talented. But I think a lot of industry people, media people, and I'll admit it, coming in, I expected it to be like, okay, he'll be really fast, but maybe not be the guy for a little while, kind of live on the YouTube fame, have a sick race or two, that kind of thing. And I think he's maybe one of the like grittiest young dudes that has come through the sport in a while. Maybe like almost as gritty as I would say like J-Mart is. J-Mart was gritty as hell. Obviously is still gritty fighting through all his injuries, but when he wasn't injured, that guy would have motos where he would fall to the back of the pack, and the charges that he would have through the field were insane. And like, yeah, Jett Lawrence would do stuff like that, but Jett Lawrence has an incredible amount of talent, and he was up against, a class of guys, maybe not as competitive, I feel like, as the one Deegan is right now. That's not fair, but I would just say that, like, the way Jett did it and his approach wasn't with the same intensity and vibrance, I guess you could say, as Hayden. And so I think Hayden deserves a lot of credit for what I really believe is down to his fitness. His bike skills are great. His fitness is insane to do that twice, almost win both motos. He came within probably 2 turns from passing Masterpool for the win again. And the amount of energy that he expended and then get up on the podium and just be able to laugh it off and shrug and all that gets for real. And to me, at this point, the walk-home 250 national champion in 2024, which is cool. Good for the sport, honestly, because there's obviously a lot of hype around the Deegans, and Deegan being at the height of the sport is great for the sport because of the fanfare and stuff that comes with it. But also just the fact that you have a fresh young face like this in Deegan that is already proving to be this good, this young, and not for nothing, but we kind of need someone to go up against Jett, and Chase and Hunter Lawrence are going to be great bullets for that. But when Tomac and Webb and Barsha and Anderson and Roxon are all retired, which is coming sooner than you probably all think, that's when we need someone like Hayden Deegan to be in the 450 class, making races for the win more entertaining, more fun, a championship battle, etc., other than having Jett sweep motos over and over again for 4 or 5 years straight. So yeah, that's I think that's how I took away my takes from High Point. Hayden Deegan is really damn good, awesome for Ty Masterpool. I think Jett Lawrence is going to win this championship, and it's going to be easier than it probably should have been given his circumstances. So that's my High Point review. I hope you guys enjoyed listening and watching some gameplay here on High Point Raceway and MX Simulator. Be sure to head to the description below. I'll include a link to this racetrack for you guys to try it out for yourself. A really fun track, available for free on the MX Simulator forums. And if you want to race, head over to racefactorygaming.com. Get signed up. It does cost a little bit of fee to race some of those races, but they're a lot of fun. And appreciate you stopping by, listening to me ramble about High Point in 2024. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one, and we'll see you in the next one. So long for now.